My name is Rachel Morgan, and this is the story of how my picture-perfect sister brought about her own downfall. People often assume the loudest person holds the most power, but sometimes it's the quiet one who sees everything. Claire had to learn that lesson the hard way. I was raised in my grandmother Rosa's antique shop, timeless treasures, surrounded by relics of the past and the stories they carried. While Claire was racking up beauty crowns and academic accolades, I was learning how to read history through tarnished silver, faded paintings, and heirloom gems. Grandma used to tell me, "Rachel, you have an old soul. You see value where others only see dust." Back then, I didn't realize how true those words were, or how they would one day protect me. Claire was always the family's shining star. Master's degree in business, thriving career in real estate, charming husband, luxury home being built from the foundation up. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one who spent weekends in the shop, enrolling in online art appraisal courses and studying historical craftsmanship. "You're wasting your potential on that old junk," Claire would remark at dinner, the diamonds on her wrist sparkling under the chandelier. "You should set your sights higher." But I did see something worth pursuing: the stories, the provenance, the craftsmanship that held value beyond price. Grandma understood that. While Claire climbed societal ladders, I was learning patience, authenticity, and insight. Then everything shifted. Grandma Rose was diagnosed, stage 4 cancer. One evening, while I sat beside her hospital bed, she clutched my hand and whispered, "There's something you need to know about the shop." There was a secret she wanted to tell me, one that mattered. But before she could finish, Claire swept into the room in a cloud of designer perfume and dramatic urgency. "The specialist in New York can take her next week," she announced. The months that followed blurred into hospital corridors and tense family conversations. Claire funded costly treatments and made sure everyone knew it. I stayed beside Grandma, listening, absorbing her last lessons. A few days before she passed, she pressed a tiny key into my hand. "There's a safe in my office," she murmured. "Don't open it until the right moment." I didn't understand then, but I would. The will was read a week after the funeral. I arrived quietly. Claire arrived last, pristine and perfect in couture mourning black, her husband James beside her. When the lawyer began, the room stilled. The antique shop, building, land, stock, all of it was left to me. Claire's expression twisted, red with fury. "This is insane," she snapped. "Rachel can barely manage her own bills. She's going to destroy everything Grandma built." But then the lawyer continued. Claire would receive a significant inheritance, only if I retained ownership of the shop for at least 5 years. The temperature in the room dropped. Claire shot to her feet. "Rachel has been stealing from the shop. I have evidence." She threw a folder onto the desk. Security footage. Ledger discrepancies. Bank transfers. Photographs. "I hired an auditor," she said, voice icy. "She has been taking valuable pieces and cash for months." My heart pounded. The documents looked real. Detailed. Convincing. James stepped forward, voice low and serious. "As her husband and a financial consultant, I can confirm these are not small mistakes." "I would never do that," I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. "Grandma trusted me." "Grandma was naive," Claire hissed. And just like that, the trap was sprung. Claire snapped, eyes blazing, "I'm contesting the will. Rachel can't run that shop. She'll destroy everything Grandma worked for." Tears blurred my vision. I didn't argue, there was no point. I simply rose from my seat and walked out. Behind me, I heard Claire already strategizing with Mr. Patterson about taking control of Timeless Treasures. But as I drove away, my fingers tightened around the small key in my pocket. And slowly, a plan began to take shape. That night in my tiny apartment, I replayed all the lessons Grandma Rose had passed down to me, about patience, about looking beyond the surface, about waiting for the right moment to act. Claire believed she had already won. But she had forgotten the first rule of antiques. Anything of real value always has documentation. I opened my laptop and began piecing together everything I had learned, and everything Claire never bothered to see. By the next morning, she would realize that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. It means being observant. At sunrise, I unlocked timeless treasures. The familiar scent of aged wood and soft dust wrapped around me like an old memory. I knew this might be the final time I entered the shop as its rightful owner, at least that's what Claire thought would happen. I walked straight to Grandma's office. The safe was hidden behind a Victorian portrait Claire had always called gloomy. My hands shook slightly as I slid the key inside. Just as Grandma promised, the safe held neatly bound ledgers, several USB drives, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. And more importantly, it held the truth. At exactly 9 a.m., Claire stormed in with James and a lawyer at her side. "Oh," she said, feigning surprise. "You're here. Good. We can settle this like adults. Sign the shop over to me and James, and we'll let the theft accusations go quietly." I held back a smile. "Actually," I said, "before we discuss anything, I think you should take a look at what Grandma left in her safe." Claire blinked. "Safe? What safe?" I spread the contents across the polished desk. "Grandma kept 2 sets of records," I explained. "One for the store's regular sales, the one you audited, and another for her private authentication work." James's posture stiffened. "Authentication work?" "Yes," I said. This wasn't just a charming little antique shop. Grandma was one of the most respected private appraisers and authenticity experts on the East Coast. I looked directly at Claire. "So those missing deposits you accused me of stealing? Those were confidential consultation payments, all documented and legally filed." Claire's face drained of color. "That's not possible." I inserted a USB drive and turned the computer screen so they could see. "Here are video records of every major authentication she conducted over the past 15 years, including several items you handled, James." James stepped back, the confidence in his voice faltering. I don't know what you're implying." "Oh, you do," I replied. "Like the Tiffany lamp you had appraised 3 years ago. Grandma proved it was counterfeit. But you knowingly sold it as genuine." I slid more documents forward. "And here's every instance you attempted to use the shop to pass forged pieces through wealthy clients. Insurance fraud. Appraisal manipulation. And Claire, you helped him." Claire's voice trembled. "You can't prove any of this." "Actually," I said gently, "I already have. You triggered a legal alert when you ordered that audit. It didn't go to Mr. Patterson, who I'm assuming James picked out. Mr. Patterson shifted uncomfortably. It went to Grandma's real attorney. And as of this morning, he has filed everything with the FBI." When the Art Crimes Unit and SEC investigators stepped inside, Claire crumpled into a chair. Her perfectly tailored outfit suddenly seemed to sag under the weight of reality. "Why are you doing this to me?" she choked out. I took a slow breath. "Because you never understood what Grandma truly created here. You saw this place as dusty furniture and old trinkets. But she built a legacy, a reputation built on integrity and knowledge. And you tried to destroy that by framing me." I opened the sealed envelope Grandma left for me, revealing the final piece of the truth. "And here's something else you didn't know," I continued. "That dream house you're building? The one funded with multiple mortgages because James's investments are collapsing?" Claire's eyes widened. How do you know that?" "Grandma knew," I said simply. "She knew James was funneling loan money to cover his losses. That's why she left not just the shop to me, but her entire private authentication practice and her network of legitimate collectors. The kind of clients who can actually invest in real estate without fraud." Outside, through the large front windows, flashing lights appeared. Claire stood, voice breaking. "You called the police?" "No," I replied. "That would be the FBI. Art Crimes Division. Turns out some of James's clients have been asking questions. Everything unraveled fast. James bolted but made it only as far as the Victorian armoire. Claire screamed about loyalty and betrayal. Agents catalogued evidence from the safe. By evening, I sat alone behind Grandma's desk, running my fingers over the polished wood. My phone buzzed non-stop, real collectors reaching out, investigators coordinating, and yes, messages from Claire's former clients looking for a trustworthy representative. Later, my mother called in tears. Did it have to come to this? I answered gently. She tried to erase everything Grandma built. She forgot quiet doesn't mean weak. It just means patient. 3 months later, I stood on the sidewalk in front of Claire's once dream house, now up for foreclosure auction. With James facing federal charges, she couldn't keep up with the multiple loans. I placed my bid. Naturally, I won. Authentication consulting, it turns out, is a very profitable field. Timeless Treasures is thriving now. I've expanded the appraisal business but kept the storefront exactly as Grandma loved it, warm, welcoming, full of history. Claire sends postcards sometimes. She's working in Florida, selling timeshares. I don't reply. I keep the cards tucked inside a vintage wooden letterbox on my desk. Some stories deserve to be remembered, if only as lessons. Sometimes, after closing, I look up at Grandma Rose's portrait hanging in the back hallway. You were right, I whisper. Real worth isn't always obvious at first glance. Last week, I was invited to speak at an international antiquities conference. Topic: Authenticity in the modern market. I accepted, smiling. Because I do have a story to tell. And I've learned something. Revenge isn't always destruction. Sometimes, it's simply protecting what matters and letting karma finish the rest. As I sit here, in the office that used to be hers, I understand the lesson clearly now. The quiet one isn't the one who knows less. The quiet one is the one who watches, learns, waits. And knows exactly when to open the safe. Grandma always said, true value is often hidden in plain sight. And she was right. Because while Claire tried to steal a shop, I was quietly building an empire.